First selection in the draft, the Cincinnati Bengals take Frosty Rucker, defensive end, Southern Cal.
Frosty Rucker, the defensive end for USC. Another USC player off the board. This is
a great name.
Great name. Frosty Rucker. Transferred to USC from Colorado State. And started in the USC defensive line. So Cincinnati does go front seven defensively and takes Frosty Rucker. And I bet you if we come back tomorrow and track the Cincinnati picks, you're going to see more defensive players.
So what do you think our final count will be from USC Texas Rose Bowl drafted players? Of course, you'd have to carry it over a couple more years, too, I guess.
Yeah.
With some of the players that are still going to be back on those two campuses next
Well, they
year.
got to go a ways to catch that Ohio State-Miami final of a couple years ago for NFL players. I was reading about that the other day, and it's an absurd number. Although they might get there.
Yeah. What in the 20s, was it? From Ohio?
You know what? It might have been. And, didn't all those linebackers from Ohio State play in that game? I mean, that was, the 2003 Orange Bowl?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So far, 6 Southern Cal players and 4 Texas players have gone from that game. From Texas, Jonathan Scott and Roderick Wright are still draftable. Aaron Harris is sort of borderline, the defensive captain. For USC, Darnell Bing will certainly be drafted. Dominic Byrd will certainly be drafted. Freddie Matua, the guard, could very well go. Scott Ware, the free safety, could very well go. The punter, Tom Malone, and the corner, Justin Wyatt, have chances to play in the National Football League, but probably won't be drafted.
Guys, we have the pick. It is Jason Hatcher, defensive end, Grambling. Jason Hatcher, defensive end, Grambling, is the Cowboys' pick here at 92.
Did you guys... Well, no. Did you guys hear me talk about him at Arizona? That Arizona had worked him out and thought he was a real sleeper. Mm-mm. Yeah, at Arizona at this pick in the 3rd round here, when they took Leonard Pope, I brought up Hatcher that I thought Arizona was going to be on him. Arizona worked him out and thought he was just an outstanding prospect that was flying under the radar screen, and they really liked him. I bet you that galls Arizona, because I think the Cardinals, if they didn't grab him in the 3rd, felt fairly good about the possibility of him being there early in the 4th tomorrow. Well, he isn't going to be. Jason Hatcher, with 4.8 speed, a 6'6", 285-pound defensive end.
Wow.
Goes to the Cowboys from Grambling.
That is a player, man, that I am going to have to defer to you on, because I can pretty much assure you I am not familiar with his fine work.
Well, that's an organization where I have a contact, and that name was brought to me, not vice versa. They said, hey, I really like this kid, this Hatcher kid. And apparently the worth of Pope early in the 3rd round was just too good to pass up. And I would just wager, guys, that Arizona may have been trying over the last hour or so to try to make a deal to get this guy still somewhere in the 3rd round, but the Cowboys grab him.
Cowboys select Jason Hatcher several minutes before the NFL gets the notice. The Cowboys give us the notice and making us feel all important again. And now we scramble to figure out who the heck this guy is.
I could use this, or we could look like a genius here. About 2 minutes to say to the crowd, I think the Cowboys are going to like Jason Hatcher.
Go gamble. Go gamble on this pick.
All right. He was a basketball player in high school.
Right.
Started at tight end and then moved to defensive end. His positives, big, strong, athletic for his size.
He's big, strong.
Big, strong.
Forceful tackler.
92nd pick in the draft, the Cowboys select Jason Hatcher, defensive end, Grambling State.
Year just went out of the Arizona
war. No way.
Keep going.
Has raw tools to develop into a fine pass rusher. Can stack the corner, hold his own against the run. Strong hands, long arms. Can occupy blockers in a 2-gap scheme. Plays with a good base, looks dominating at times, good production. His negatives: can be slow to shed blocks and needs to learn to use his hands better. Has not faced elite competition, and will need to learn how to set up blockers and develop more pass rush moves to come free at the next level. A little straight line-ish and stiff, will disappear for stretches, needs to be taught two-gap.
By the way, the Cowboys took him at number 92, George.
Yep.
He was 88 on Rick Gosselin's list.
And say he's suited well for a 3-4 defense.
Yeah, I have another scouting report on him now. It says a good athlete, quick hands and feet to defeat blockers surprisingly easily for such a big defensive end. He has long arms, and when he is aggressive with his hands, he consistently dominates the offensive tackle, beating him with quickness to get around him. Weakness does not stay focused or maintain concentration well on every snap, and it leads to him popping straight upright at the snap and becoming a non-factor way too often.
Sounds like people at the ticket.
Boy, you are, again, not to be repetitive here and not to throw the wet blanket, but this is another position of supposed decent strength.
So we had a bunch of guys playing defensive end for this team.
We're pretty well squared away there, I thought.
On the other hand, was this the best player available? Did the Cowboys look at this guy and say, hey, we just can't reach for that. This is going to be a very good football player for some time.
Well, let's count them up, though. Let's count them up. Spears and Ellis. Coleman and Canty.
Right.
Jay Ratliff.
Thomas Johnson, Jason Ferguson.
Well, those are your tackles. I'm talking about just your ends.
Greg Ellis.
You got 5 of them. And now you got 6.
At least 5.
It's weird, man. It's interesting. If he turns out to be the great pass rushing maniac that totally shocks the world, then obviously I will I will certainly beg forgiveness. But this is very odd draft day for the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, it's not really a now pick either, is it? This sounds like a guy who needs a lot of development work.
Well,
he hasn't played against elite competition. Sounds like his technique is a little suspect. I mean, that sounds to me like a guy who has great upside, but right now it's not necessarily a guy who's going to play a role like Chris Canty did this year.
Oh, I agree, but it isn't going to be long, you wouldn't think, before Greg Ellis is moving on.
Yeah, that's what I would look at it as. This is the guy that they eventually want on the roster instead of Greg Ellis.
Well, and when you run a 3-4, don't you really run, in effect, a 6-4? That is, with a 3-4, you play 2 people at every spot in that line.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a trade been made here?
Green Bay traded out of 93 to St. Louis, I believe, who's on the clock presently.
And St. Louis took a Bird, Dominique Bird. The tight end from USC goes to the St. Louis Rams at number 93. Now, what does Green Bay wind up getting here? Number 109, is that right, Mark?
109 and 183.
109 in the 4th, and 183, which tracks all the way to the late. Good grief, what is that, 6? Yeah, 6. Boy, I tell you what, Bob, I know you're a Packer fan. Let me tell you something. Those heads are swirling. How many moves have they made today?
They've been very busy. And whether the end result is anything remains to be seen.
But back to the 3-4. Really, when you're playing a 3-4, more and more people who play a 3-4 like to have 2 of everything to keep those players fresh. And Hatcher, Spears, Canty, Ratliff, and who am I missing here? Ellis. Give them 5. They got Johnson and Ferguson on the nose, and that is a place that we've already discussed. Maybe the Cowboys look for somebody there, too, for all we know.
So today is a day where we all bid farewell to Lusaka Polite, and now does this move suggest that the Greg Ellis run is coming to a close? I was thinking about that a little earlier in the day when a Greg Ellis rumor popped up on Peter King's blog or something along those lines. I'm trying to remember where we first heard Greg Ellis rumors today. Oh, yeah, Mel Kiper had it today.
Really?
And I didn't think there was any substance to it, so as opposed to just throwing every rumor over the air, I kept it in-house, but this would lead to the possibility that they might be... Well, and Ellis has suggested that he could be a happier clam over the last season, right?
Yes, he has. Yes, he has.
But, again, is this Hatcher guy ready to be a part of your rotation at defensive end this year?
Oh, maybe part-time. Maybe part-time.
As a fifth defensive end, which is where he would be right now.
Well,
fifth or sixth.
Remember now, this club took Candy in the fourth and Ratliff in the seventh, and they both got playing time last year on this team. So
yeah, they did, but I don't think, especially in the
draft, the Indianapolis
here's 94.
Colts select Freddie Keaho, linebacker, San Diego State.
Freddie Keaho, the San Diego State linebacker, goes to Indy. Indy takes a different type of player for their defense. They like the smaller player, the player that plays on turf, and Keaho fits there. In fact, I have him noted. Right, where have I got Keaho? Is an inside linebacker? Yes, as an inside linebacker. He started at running back, then simply played special teams, then went to linebacker. Made 18 tackles in a game against Ohio State this year. Wow. Also has 4 kick blocks and plays on virtually all their special teams.
Back to the point we're making on the defensive ends, though, don't you think Canty and Ratliff were guys who played at a higher level and could make that transition a little easier than a guy who apparently needs some work coming out of Grambling State?
Gentlemen, we are joined now by the newest Dallas Cowboy. He joins us on the hotline, brought to you by Miller Lite. It is Jason Hatcher of Grambling. Jason, how are you today?
Man, I'm good now. I'm good.
Well,
I wasn't going to make it. I'm good now.
Oh, you didn't think you were going to make it?
I didn't think I was going to make it through this night, man.
Well, congratulations. You now know your future, and I get from the sound of your voice that it hasn't been necessarily the most relaxing day you've ever faced.
Nah, not at all. Not at all.
Well, let's talk about your thoughts of being drafted by the Dallas Cowboys.
Man, I've been football. I always been a Dallas Cowboys fan. You know, they was America's team. I always root for them when Emmitt Smith was there. And then, I always liked to play for Dallas Cowboys. Now I'm finna live this dream that I always wanted.
So is this about where you thought you would go in the draft? Had other teams indicated that they would take you around this spot, and just kind of what was the process like for you today?
Yeah, I heard like no later than the 4th round, 3rd round. I really didn't know. Like at the end of toward the end of the 3rd round, I got I said, well, maybe I'm gonna go tomorrow, So Dallas Cowboys gave me a chance, and I'm gonna live it to the fullest.
Hey, Jason, was Arizona a team? I was told Arizona was a team particularly interested in you.
I wouldn't say that. I would say the Saints. I think the Saints, they really held out on me. They was going to try to give me more with the 2nd pick in the 4th round, but you guys got to them, so, hey, I'm glad where I'm at.
They describe you as a guy that has a great motor. I know on draft day we always like to say, does his motor run all the time, or does it not? But the scouts seem to think that you come to play just about every play. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, I come to play every down, and I'm gonna give the same thing to the Cowboys, even more than I did in college.
Where do you expect to project in a 3-4? There, you do have the dimensions. I guess a 284, most likely a defensive end, but they got those hybrids in the 3-4 situation where you might not always have your hand down. Are you more of a hand down type of guy?
I mean, I pretty much done it all in the season. I stood up, came off the edge, so I pretty much fit in the 3-4 scheme.
Jason Hatcher with us from Grambling, the 92nd pick in the draft, going to the Dallas Cowboys, and have the last few hours, so you sit there with a cell phone in hand, just ready to roll? Jason?
Yeah.
I just described the last few hours as you wait for your phone to ring. Has it been pretty tense for you?
Yeah, it's been very intense, man. I get my hopes up, and then it'll go down, and I get them back down. It's been a ride for me and my family. I got my family and friends out here. Everybody just been, shocked. They got in this mode like I wasn't going. I looked at everybody's face. Then when my name came across the screen, I just had to express my feelings in tears.
Well, Jason, congratulations on joining the Dallas Cowboys. We expect big things for you, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thanks for having me.
All right.